Good.
Panic.
Well,
Record. We're recording. My laptop's started to run slow now. Just
and you're live.
and welcome to Sound Radio this morning for the Reality Bites show with me, your host Wendy Smith, and my reoccurring guest Jonathan Shaw. Jonathan, welcome back this morning.
Morning, Wendy. How are you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. I'm awake, which I'm surprised because I went to just say happy birthday to Tracy. Went to Tracy's 40th party last night and did my usual escape early.
Yeah.
Just so I can get some sleep. So
Well,
yeah, feeling good. Sun's out. Sun's
did you
out.
dig a
So
tunnel? Dig a tunnel to get out, or did you
I,
climb over the wall?
I
What was your
actually
escape?
just
Right.
sidled round, then made a beeline. I did say goodbye to everybody.
So,
So
so not a really dramatic escape, really. It was sort of a more gentle,
subtle,
subtle,
gentle escape.
subtle escape. More
Yeah,
of a wobble out rather than an escape.
exactly. A meander. A
A
meander.
meander out. A meander out. Okay.
It was a meandering
Yeah.
experience, which
Right.
was quite nice. So today, actually, I'm going to change slightly what we're talking about. So, for those of you who don't know Jonathan, Jonathan developed a system called the DTO system. So, Jonathan works in therapy, basically. And one of the main areas Jonathan works in is helping people release and recode anxiety in the body. So, to get out of what I would call quite debilitating states, actually, and be able to move forward. But we were talking about the mind and memory before we came on air. Just out of curiosity, is there anything you can do for people with their mind if they have? Because I know what you work, a lot of the stuff you do works on a belief system that we hold, like a contract we've made with ourselves in a way, shape, or form. So if someone's always saying, "Oh, I've got a terrible memory," and sentences like that, would that come under the heading of being able to use DTO on it?
Yeah.
It would.
You can use DTO on anything. You're only limited by imagination because the philosophy of DTO covers everything. So the philosophy of DTO is that everything in your life is created by what you think and what you feel. So if you have a problem, I don't care what it is, it's because of the way you're thinking and feeling about the problem. And that's what DTO does. It just changes the way you're thinking and feeling. So health issues, totally 100% what you think and feel. Relationships, what you think and feel. Money, what you think and feel. Memory, same thing. There's actually a conflict for memory from a meta point of view.
Go on,
Uh,
explain.
one of the things I do, which is an analysis of the so DTO changes what you think and feel, but some of what you think and feel is a conflict, it's a shock in the body that happens. And meta health is an analysis of what shocks create what problems. So, for instance, a shock of injustice or betrayal will hit your neck, or a shock of something you can't swallow and digest will hit your upper digestive system. A shock of feeling like you're performing or competing will hit your knee. But for memory, one of the conflicts is feeling powerless, and it hits the thyroid. And when you feel powerless, you can start forgetting things and losing the memory. But you also get anxiety as well. Um, but one of the places that also happens is when people are so overwhelmed with the amount of shocks they've had, when they've had just like a build up of shocks. Like a client came to me a couple of weeks ago, and she came to me with stomach problems. She's not been to the toilet for 18 days.
Right.
Tried medication, tried everything, could not go. She's had bouts in the past. So it's a chronic condition, but this was the worst bout she'd ever had. And she came to me for a session, but when she came to me, she was in a complete state of confusion. And she couldn't even answer basic questions. She couldn't remember anything. She was just in a like a blank state. And it was basically because she had three very short, sharp shocks in one day, two at work and one at home. And the combination of those two shocks just literally shut her brain off, and she went inside her head. And when you're inside your head and you're not actually outside in the real world, when you're in your head, then you go into what I sort of call the quantum realm. If you ever seen Marvel movies like Ant-Man, then you're going into, if you watch them go into their quantum realm, when they go into the quantum space, that's kind of like what happens when you go inside your head, and it's like a vast ocean and you're just in your head and you can't see or remember or fit or understand or comprehend any information coming in. And then she felt really bad because she couldn't answer my questions. And these were basic questions, So as soon as I found those shocks and switched them off, she came straight back out again and could answer my questions absolutely fine. But in that moment, her memory went, everything went. So there's several reasons why it can happen. Shock is one of them. If you're in your head and you can't, and you've had multiple shocks, and you're just in that state of fight and flight. If you're inside yourself, a powerless feeling can cause it, and or belief systems can cause it. If you're going, oh, I've just got such a bad memory, then you're kind of re-embedding that. I'd say that's rarer, but it would happen in older people. They'll tell themselves they're losing their memory, and then they're not losing their memory. It might just be blocked because of the two conflicts I mentioned. But of course, if you keep telling yourself that, you're re-embedding, oh, I've got such a dreadful memory. So it then goes around in circles because people make things up. They don't really know the reason. They just make a reason up why it is that way and then believe that. And then they follow that belief. But that's not necessarily accurate. It doesn't, but that belief then causes more problems in your brain because you need to be careful what you. We were just talking about you taking in information. You listen to something and you don't take it in. Well, I'm actually trying to remove information from my brain. I don't want more information. DTO is not about learning something; it's about unlearning things.
Yeah.
The process of DTO is unlearning the things you think you know that are helping you that really aren't helping you at all.
Yeah, that's the way I explain this to people, because what we do is sort of similar in a way. Is that when I'm doing talks and I explain to people that if you think of yourself like a phone, that over the period of your life, especially in your younger years, people have put apps on your phone.
Mm.
So they've given you apps to your limiting beliefs and lots of things. And once these things get set in, you just keep rerunning them like unconsciously. But if you had loads of apps on your phone that you didn't like, you wouldn't keep them on your phone because it slows it down, doesn't it? You
Mm.
delete them. So
Yeah,
there are actually processes out there that you can start looking at this stuff. And if it's not serving you, delete it.
that's a really good way of looking at it. I might nick that. That's a good
Oh,
way
you're
of
welcome. You're welcome.
explaining it. That's a really good way of explaining it.
Yeah, it's because most people have a phone now, don't they? That has apps on it.
Yeah.
Just to they're just, as far as I'm concerned, all of the belief systems, and I said a little bit. So they're just like little apps that are running, and you just have to pay attention to them. Going, is that one supporting me
Yeah.
in some way, shape, or form, or not? And some, like you've said to me before, some positive beliefs can actually be creating a negative in your life as well.
Oh, yeah. The positive ones are the worst.
So go on, explain.
Well, so uh, people develop things that belief systems they think are positive, that sound positive, but the brain has attached it to a negative. So if the brain's attached it to a negative, then it becomes a problem. So I'll give you two examples. So one of my clients, he came to me and he'd had an argument at church. He was religious, nothing wrong with that, but he'd had an argument with somebody at church, and he came to me and I can't remember. I think it was causing him back pain. Anyway, we was trying to switch it off, and I tried for 10 minutes to switch his anger off. But it just wouldn't go. So when I nailed it down to the belief was that he was moral, and the response was, "I'm moral."
Right.
Okay, so being moral is a good thing technically. Now, there's nothing wrong with being moral. And to be honest, when he told me the story, if what he said was true, I had to agree that he was correct. I wasn't there, I don't know,
Yeah.
but it was the belief that he was moral was holding place. As soon as I switched that off, then the anger vanished. I didn't switch off his morals.
Yeah.
I just switched off the belief that in that event, in that moment, that being moral was the right thing because it wasn't. It was holding his anger in place and just causing him pain. So him believing I'm moral just didn't work. We often do that when someone breaks up with us. We often go, I can't believe it. Why did it happen to me? I'm such a good person. And that belief, I'm such a good person, holds a lot of the trauma in place because you're believing you're a good person, you don't deserve it. Well, it's not deserving or not deserving. It's not that's not in it. That's a made up thing. It's not we deserve or don't deserve. It just is what happened.
Yeah.
But when we go, I'm such a good person, that belief often holds that trauma in place. And another place that beliefs exist, unfortunately, is in well, sometimes three of the hardest people to heal are therapists, religious people, and spiritual people. not because they're bad people or the system, but because they give you more information than, and they reframe things and tell you things that don't work in your brain. So you know the belief that spiritual world says I'm on a journey. Oh, I'm on a journey. It it's useless because it keeps you believing that you're trying to heal, and but you're on a journey or you're learning from your illness, and that keeps the illness going. But in reality, you don't decide, right, I want to go from Malden to Scotland, get in your car, stop off for petrol, and then go, it's all right, I'll stay here for a bit because I'm on a journey. You don't do it. You just drive from Malden to Scotland. You might stop for petrol, but you carry on. So this whole belief system actually keeps people stuck. And I have to switch it off so they can heal faster,
Yeah.
because sometimes that belief gets stuck and they believe they need to complete the journey to heal, when in reality they could just get better quickly. So sometimes these beliefs block us, and that was actually one of the beliefs I had that stopped me some of my depression. That's how I know it blocked me. So those some of those spiritual beliefs that I was given, although they were given with good intentions and for the right reason, they often block us and keep us more stuck. And I have to switch that stuff off for people.
Yeah, it's interesting when we get onto that subject of John, my my business partner John, he's always said it's only ever one man's word.
Mm.
And so, life, when you're listening to everybody else outside of you and attempting to gain guidance, which is nice, but if there's people who've been and done and they've had experiences, it's nice to get guidance, but then you have to take it as yours because that is still only one man's word. And
Yeah.
it's not relevant to your map of reality. And you have to be the creator of, in my eyes, you've got to be the creator of your own map of reality for you then to not have a journey, but for you to be able to keep moving forwards in life and progressing,
That's
in a balanced way. It's becoming your own creator, isn't it? Get rid of the stuff that the one man's word has come in and given you, and start driving your own life, because we're all run on programming, aren't we? This is the
everything. And that's why I don't give advice to people, life advice to people. I know you don't either.
no,
A lot of therapists try and do that, and the problem with that is that you're giving advice from your map of reality, when all you really need to do with someone is change how they think and feel about their problem, and then their real map of reality will kick in and they'll go and do what's actually necessary to do. You don't need to give them advice. You just need to heal what's stopping them from seeing the truth, clear out what they believe, what they think, what they feel, the trauma around it, the triggers around it, and then they will know automatically the right thing for them. You don't need to tell them what to do.
no. And
Uh,
that, I mean, the word trauma as well, this is one thing that gets people, because when I say I work in PTSD and trauma, people think that they've got to have, been in Afghan in the war or something like that,
yeah,
had serious types of abuse to experience trauma. Trauma just means a disturbing or distressing event.
yes,
And that's what shocks are, something that has distressed you or disturbed you in the moment.
yeah,
And then it gets stored in the neurology with priority, because your human system goes, oh, that was important because you paid a lot of attention to that. I'll
yeah,
hold that one for you. And
yeah,
then it just keeps it there, sat in its little banks, waiting for a relevant experience to trigger it off. And then it goes, oh, here you go. You don't need to relearn this. We've had this experience. I'll run this for you. No
yeah,
problem. Because we
yeah.
never interrupt it. I mean, I just find the human system a fascinating system.
It's brilliant. It's an amazing system if you know how to operate it. We just don't come with an operating manual. That's the problem. So
No,
but when you know how to operate it, you can get it functioning really well. Um, it's just knowing the right things to do. That's the problem. People don't understand what's going on. I was just trying to explain this to my mum this morning, and after the next bit, I'll explain how mum got triggered and stuff like that with something. But we're watching a gardening show this morning, and the people on there are saying how gardening's really good for mental health. 'Cause it's Mental Health Week this week, isn't it, or
it
something?
is, yeah.
People have no idea what they're talking about, and they're saying, "Oh, gardening's really good for mental health and equestrian therapy, horses and things like that." And they're saying it really helped their mental, but they don't understand why it helps their mental health. If you don't understand that, you won't understand why it doesn't work in some people, but does work in other people, and then that leaves people feeling stuck. But if you listen to the two people talking, the one person who's talking about the gardening, it actually gave her purpose. So taking up gardening, learning horticulture, it gave her her purpose back again. That's why it worked.
Yeah,
Not because gardening solved mental health, because plants are inanimate objects. They're not actually affecting your mind, but it gave her, she felt a purpose again. She learned something new. She just dived straight into it. And the person with the equestrian, she actually said it in language with the horses. She said, "Oh, sometimes I'll just sit there with the horse and stroke the horse, and the emotion will just come up in that moment, and it'll just release." Well, she's then developing presence. She's gone to being present. That's all that's happened. She's been the horse, who has amazing energy. Horses.
Mm.
If you've ever been around horses, they are just incredible animals. And the presence of the animal allowed the presence for the person, and in that moment emotion comes up and dissipates. If you can get into that state of genuine presence, your emotions will drop out of your system very quickly.
Yeah, and
um,
I mean the gardening. There's a lot of. I do agree on the tip of like from the mental space of things. If you've got shit running, gardening, you're going to feel good while you're out in the garden because we should have our shoes off and we should be connected to the electromagnetic field of the earth.
totally.
So when you've got your hands in the garden, you're getting benefit on a physical level, which could benefit the mind. However, if you've got a continual issue, there's something running in there that no matter how much gardening you do, it won't shift. But the being, like you say, the being present I think presence is one thing. All of this we should be taught in school, Jonathan, to start with.
Oh, yeah.
We wouldn't have half the issues we've got now. But that being present in the moment, we're distracted so much by so many things in life that it's very rare that people actually sit and are present with themselves. Sit and assess, what is actually happening in my head, rather than just feeling. What I find with people when they go into states of panic, I did a online talk for a company the other night, and one of the questions was this lady had said to me prior to the talk, she was one of the hosts, "I've had anxiety for years and I have panic attacks, etc., etc., etc." And she asked a question at the end, so what would someone do if they've had years and years of this anxiety and these panic attacks? And I said, look at the space where it was created. Because it's not about the email that's just come in now, that's just the triggered off response. So, if you've not got a therapist there and you can't access that type of thing, there is a way you could do it yourself, using whatever technique, because our human system is so powerful. It's, very unique. I said, just if you can go back and find the start point, because you would have someone around you or some situation you would have had where that was initially created. And if you can find that, you could literally sit with it in the present moment and go, is that emotion working for me? No, what do I want to feel it? And just saturate yourself with the new one. And if you do it enough, like utilizing your process, mine's slightly different, but similar techniques. But if you do that enough, you will be able to recode it yourself. It's just being present enough to sit with it and do the work, isn't it?
That's what I try and that's why I like DTO. Because if you just learn some basic DTO, you can do a lot yourself. And I try to encourage people to be able to do it themselves, because people are either A, think the mind is complicated, or B, they're frightened of their emotions. But if you just apply some basic DTO, you realize things can actually switch off very quickly and easily, as long as there's no sabotage running, because that's the thing that complicates the brain. But if there's none of that running, then most people can switch their stuff off really quickly and easily once they know what to switch off.
Yeah.
And all you got to do for that is just message me. I'll tell you what to switch off. And if you know DTO, you can go and clear it yourself. And a lot of my clients do that now. But it's just learning simple processes that actually do switch the root of it off, not just control and maintain it. Because the problem with controlling and maintaining is it can get triggered at any time.
Yeah.
And you can feel you're great, and then all of a sudden it gets re-triggered, and then that will depress you and make you feel worse because you think, "Oh, I got rid of it, now it's back again." That's not helpful. So you really want it gone and know that it's gone, so you can live your life. But the mind is not complicated. It's very simple.
Life is not complicated, Jonathan.
No,
This
life
is
is
the
not
one.
complicated. We make it complicated, but
Yeah,
life's not complicated.
we do love a complication, don't we?
Yeah.
So time in a bottle. Jim, we're not sure how to say this name, but Jim Crouchy.
Crouchy. I have no idea. I'm dyslexic.
Yeah. So why this song to start us off this morning?
Oh, it's a beautiful song. I love the song. So, it was actually in a Marvel movie as well, but it's such a beautiful song.
Oh, I've never heard this one, so I'll have a listen to this.
You'll probably recognise it when you hear it.
Okay, so Django, if you wouldn't mind a bit of time in a bottle this morning, please.
Cool your air.
Oh,
And
yeah. Yeah, I do know.
Such a beautiful, yeah.
If I could save time in a bottle,
Yeah, my mum and dad will enjoy your playlist this morning.
Okay, that's good then.
Parent pleasing morning.
Yeah. I thought I'd give a little bit of nice gentle music with a bit of rock and roll in the middle.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, something to dance around the kitchen too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, did you do DTO on your?
I did. You know what? The one thing, it took quite a few hours for it to disappear.
Yes, because you probably have to work on the route, and we'd have to find the route if you'd worked on it. Yeah, but at least you did it.
Yeah, all the way in the car on the way home, I was doing it. And what I found is really interesting. All of a sudden, my brain will wander off
Mm.
when I'm halfway through, and it's like, no, come back, start again, come back. So I would just start from the beginning.
Yeah.
And do it again. So yeah, it took. So I would say it took 2 or 3 hours to get some relief from it, with 2 or 3 hits at it.
Yeah. If sometimes when you just deal with symptoms, the symptom will go, and other times you have to find the route.
Mm.
One of my clients did that once. I did the first session with her. She had the urinary infection. No, sorry, no, she had a bladder problem that she'd had for 10 years, and it was like a urinary infection that she had for 10 years. It was those sort of symptoms.
Yeah.
And the first session I did with her, she just took what we did in the session, and tried it herself that night just on the symptoms. And it took her 2 hours, but she got rid of the symptom that night. And then once I taught her, she was able to speed it up and then manage the symptoms while we were doing the clearing. And now it's gone.
Yeah.
But it's
Short one, this one, 20 seconds to go.
20 seconds to go, did you say?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
but eventually, but it was so amazing that she just picked up the technique without me even teaching it to her, and did it, and saw that it took a couple of hours the first time round, but initially she got quicker at it, and then we finally got rid of it.
KINDASOUND Radio.
Yeah.
The
Making sure you
station for
sit
a
with
global
focus on it because I was
community.
driving, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
And you die.
And welcome back to Kind of Sound this morning on Reality Bites with my lovely guest Jonathan Shaw, talking all things mind health this morning, which is the subject of the month apparently, or the week, or
Yeah, apparently it's Mental Health Week, and
yeah, I hate the word mental health. I like to call it mind health.
I do as well. Yeah, I hate the fact they've got a week for it. It's like it's as if they're doing something. I'm like, what the fuck?
It's literally like Mother's Day, Father's Day, you know, everything. What is it? International Women's Day.
Yeah.
All of these things. It's like, why can't we just appreciate all these things all year long?
Well, yeah,
they don't just appear on. They don't just. My mum and dad don't just appear on one day of the year. Do you know what I mean? They disappear off again, and women are here all the time. So, and we have minds in our head. So
it's just comical to me. They think having a day for it is going to make it better, make us aware of it or something. I'm like, that is a mental issue in itself. I mean, that's like
we just forget it as soon as it starts. That's it. It's done.
And they always look at the wrong things as well. So it's like, well, you're addressing the wrong things. So I mean, it's not gonna. I'm like, well, it's just pointless.
Yeah, I'd say I've done probably over the last. What have I done? Four talks over the last week, all like mental health, but I call it mind health when I talk to them.
Your mind health's better, yeah.
And it's really interesting because all of the subjects have been anxiety.
It's massive at the moment, massive.
Over the whole board, everything was based around, can you do something on anxiety management, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been quite fascinating actually to see in a larger scale how many people at the moment are experiencing, you know, bouts of anxiety daily.
It's got massively worse since the whole scamdemic nonsense, and a lot of people got health anxiety now because of that. And health anxiety is the more complex one to get rid of, simply because your triggers are with you everywhere, because it's your body that triggers you. So it's not like, you know, social anxiety only gets triggered in a social event.
Yeah.
When you go out. You know, if you get anxiety at work, it only get triggered at work. But health anxiety, you carry it everywhere with you. So, you know, and then don't get me wrong, there are people who have anxiety everywhere they go. I get that, but not everyone's like that.
No.
So you know, one of my anxiety clients recently, lovely young girl, and she got her anxiety in very specific places, work, and malls and things like that, you know, shopping malls,
Yeah.
and with her boyfriend's parents. They were the main areas she got it. But when she was at home with her boyfriend, she was fine. Or when she went somewhere else, she was fine. But also with her health, though. So when she felt pain, anxiety would kick in. But there are often with anxiety, there are times when people don't feel anxious. Sometimes there are places where they're okay, but with health anxiety, if you have that, it's everywhere because you take your body everywhere.
Mm.
Unless you're clever, you can remove your head and just go with your head. But,
Yeah, I'm just going to leave that over there and
yeah, but
go
then
out.
that would create a probably bigger problem. So maybe not.
For humanity, probably not for yourself. Well, then saying that, you need direction, don't you? So if you left your head at home, it just wouldn't be
Yeah.
very helpful, and it wouldn't for me.
No.
What was I going to say on that tip? That's just totally thrown me off.
Sign you off now. But anxiety's got worse. I mean, you know, what was interesting was before the whole scandemic nonsense, people who had anxiety when they were locked up, like they felt much better. But people who were quote unquote, well, didn't have anxiety have now got anxiety since it came out because they're trying to re-enter into a world again and interact with other people. And some people are frightened of other people, and some people are worried. You know, conspiracy theorists are worried what other people are going to say, and other people are worried about information coming out. And now it's created this whole different, and we're being attacked from different directions. And we're being attacked in the world. You know, climate change is attacking us, and there's another virus that's attacking us, and the governments aren't doing what they say they're going to do, and the banks are collapsing, and so everything's attacking us, or we're perceiving it like that. They're not really attacking us.
Yeah.
And so it's created a lot of anxiety in people that wouldn't necessarily have had it before, because of different things happening in the world.
Yeah, economic anxiety as well.
Yeah, financial things, you know.
That was the one that was coming up quite a lot, was people, you know, actually worrying about being able to pay for things, and, you know, worrying about their mortgages or their jobs or
Yep.
everything like that, you know. For me, I have to keep it buttoned when I'm talking to people.
Yeah.
I don't wander into that realm.
No, it's difficult though, isn't it? Because it's everywhere at the moment. That realm is everywhere, so it's very difficult not to. But yeah, people obviously they don't know what's the good things are coming, so they're they're not feeling safe right now. But
No, just watching I always say to people, if you're getting a lot of anxiety, the first place to check is what programming you're having on a daily basis.
yes,
And by that is what I mean, what TV programming you're having on a daily basis, who you're talking to, what you're listening to. Are you listening to the radio with, you know, what I call the fear porn? I mean,
yeah,
everything that you see on the news, it's just propaganda based on someone's opinion of what they want you to think.
nonsense.
But no one ever thinks that, do they? I think this is the part, Jonathan. No one ever thinks anymore, do they? We've been so railroaded into this hypnotic programming of just do as you're told, get your head down, work, and then die.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's no one actually stops and lifts their head up and puts their eyes up and just goes, hang on.
no, there's no rational thinking about things. There's no, you know, rationality or logic or everyone is in. Obviously, when you're in that state of fight and flight, your logic goes. I get that. But there are limits. I mean, you know, when if you think a virus can tell the time, or knows which way you're walking, or knows whether the difference whether you're sitting or standing, there's only so many people I can help. After that, you've just gone too far.
And this one, I've got to say this actually on this. I don't normally go into these realms, as like my producers know, but I am going to, because there was something that I did. Someone randomly sent me something the other day, and I don't, you know me, I don't watch all these videos. I don't have time. I'm learning too many other things. I've got much more important things in my life to do, like create my life rather than follow some messed up narrative. But someone sent me something the other day, and it said, you've got the usual candidates, you know, the Bill Gates, the World Economic Forum, all those, the loony bins. And they, they were basically saying the next pandemic is going to be worse than this one, and it's going to affect the children. And for me, I went, now that's interesting. How do you know that's coming then? You know,
exactly.
so it's like, what, you got a crystal ball, you mystic me?
Yeah. Oh, they're
like,
psychic,
unless you're creating something
yes,
to put out there, and this is where the logic has gone out of people's minds, hasn't it? It's like, does anybody actually use their brain anymore? Because when someone says something like that, for me, it's like, well, hang on, I can't predict what the weather's gonna do tomorrow. Well, I can because of the chemtrailing, but hey ho, but I can't predict what's gonna happen tomorrow with my health, or the day after, or the day after that. So how can someone predict that in a period of time there's going to be another massive pandemic that's going to affect children? It's like, hold on one moment, who's bringing this one out then? That's where my head goes with it.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the stuff you hear on the news, isn't it? About everything gets created when you know that you're creating reality. Whatever you're spending your focus on, you're going to be bringing into your space. But it's just, it's things like that just make me chuckle. I think, does anybody else think like me when they hear things like that? Like, hang on, how do they know? That's my first question. We were brought up to question, how do they know?
Well, there's more people think like you now, but there's not. But that's important. It's important because part of the reason we have mental health exists is because we don't think rationally and logically. We go into such an emotional state over things. We're going to fight and flight, but it's a biological response. But we are in a very heightened emotional state, and the problem with that is we can't think rationally like that. And if we just thought more rationally about things, we wouldn't actually have the mental health that we have. But we've been programmed by those world leaders to be emotional. And that's the problem. We've been programmed to believe that we need to be emotional. We need to feel this and feel that way. And we should worry about this, and we should feel bad about ourselves and feel guilt and shame. And because we've been programmed, and the way they program are TV programs, look at all the TV programs that encourage us to feel guilt and shame. All the characters in TV shows are always feeling guilt and shame about everything. Even the superheroes. Oh my God, I didn't save him. I feel so bad. Or, oh my God, I can't believe I couldn't say. I mean, it's and Coronation Street and all that. They're always guilt and shamed about something. They're always crying in their beer or upset of the neighbour across the road did something and they said something. And oh my, it's all guilt and shame based. So we're always programmed to believe we need to feel bad about this or feel bad about that. And I'm not saying emotions are not good. They are. But they've gone to an extreme now where we just go into this emotional state over everything, and that programming alone has contributed to mental health in such a big way.
Go on. I was going to say, go on, carry on, because then I'll tell you about something else.
This whole woke agenda that's got going on, where you can't say certain things in case you upset somebody. Oh, do me a favor, seriously. Feelings are not real. You cannot. If you can't say anything in case you upset someone, we'd all be quiet. We might as well be monks living in a monastery. That's just insane behavior. But that's the way it's gone. If someone gets upset, you can't say anything. But that person is not realizing. We're teaching people that you shouldn't be upset. That someone shouldn't upset you. In reality, what we should teach people is to not get upset by it.
To learn emotional intelligence.
Yeah. So yeah, that's right.
You have emotions. You have a plethora of emotions, and to have balance in life, you've got to be able to feel them, navigate through them, and productively utilize them.
Yeah,
that's my view on it.
But the world is teaching people that your emotions are precious, and no one must affect your emotions, and it's okay to feel that way. Well, yes, it is okay to feel that way. Fair enough, but to the point where you can't cope in life, no, that's not good. To the point where you have to be mollycoddled and smothered and protected, that is not the way to live in the world. And that's another reason mental health has got worse, because we're so frightened to say anything to people anymore, and we're being taught that if we respond negative to something, that's okay, and we need to nurture that feeling. Oh, do me a favor. No, you just need to switch that feeling off because you're making that crap about you. Stop it.
We just need to pull our socks up again where all this is concerned. Mum and Dad were saying the other day that in their day, they're 79 now, both my parents, but in their day they said we didn't even know what mental health was. The word didn't even exist. You just got on with stuff.
Yeah.
Very resilient generations, and we're losing that now. We're turning in. There's just soft-bellied rollover generation where, like you say, you can't say anything. A guy went out for some breakfast yesterday morning, and as we walked in, there was a guy just started chatting to us straight away, and he was a storyteller. Like, oh boy, he's a storyteller. And he just started telling us about there was 2 other couples listening as well. It was quite a funny story. But he's telling us about being in school. He used to work in schools, and he still goes in and does like talks around certain subjects. And someone said to him, "So what's your preference?" And he knew what they were talking about because it was like around, you know, gay, straight, all this sort of thing. And he went, "Oh, my preference is I prefer a cup of tea to a cup of coffee." And that's right.
Great.
And then they were scouting all around this issue, going, you know, trying all different ways. And because he's quite on the ball, this guy, he was just coming up with all these different things, like just totally, if they weren't going to ask him the direct question,
Yeah.
of are you gay or are you straight? He was going to answer it in the most bizarre ways until someone actually came out. And he said to them, "What is the issue with you just asking me? You know, what is my sexual orientation? How is that a problem?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, it's offensive to say, isn't it?" And it's like, "No, because I'll just say to you, I like this or I like that. How is it? It's not, none of it is a problem, but we're making it
Making a problem. That's right.
into problems in so many different areas at the minute, which is leading to, you know, what I'm going to call a soft generation that is all emotional based. You can't hurt my feelings. I don't hurt your feelings anyway. That's your map of reality.
Yeah, and as soon as we make it because we make it about ourselves. I'm not saying you should sweep someone with genuine mental health under the carpet. That needs to be
No.
addressed and dealt with properly. But what we are doing now is, like you say, we are creating problems that shouldn't exist, and we're taking things personally that don't need to be taken personally. And you know, if someone doesn't like that or doesn't agree with that, so what? You shouldn't be insulting people. But if you do come across someone who insults you, because it will happen at some point in your life. You can't stop that. Leave, walk away.
Yeah,
You,
address
you
it.
can go. You could, or you can just put them in place and go. Why are you speaking to me like that? I'm another
Yeah.
human being. Why are you?
What
Why
is your purpose behind that?
Or yeah, or you could go. Oh wow, you seem really traumatized. Are you okay?
Yeah, it's just
Because it's their problem.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, people call me. I've got a friend who, whenever I see him rarely, but he'll, you know, I'll go to walk and he'll go, "Come on, Wobbles, hurry up."
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I don't find it offensive at all.
No.
It's quite an endearing term. Yes, I wobble when I walk. You know what I mean? it's just one of them. You know, for him, that's how he sees me, and it's just that he never means any offence by it. It's like an endearing term, and but when I can see other people, if they hear him say it, they, you know, they'll look and go, "Oh, it's quite a rude thing to say to that girl." You know what I mean? It's like, no, actually, it's not.
So I'm going to use that myself now. It's great way to describe it.
Yeah.
What I always find interesting is that, you know, when we have friends and we're close, we will call each other things left, right, and centre, and not be offended by that.
Mm.
So we will say the things that but if someone else said that, we take offence. But when it's our mates, we don't. And I'm like, really? What? I get there might be a different tone with a stranger, or there might be a different way they've said it, but ultimately it's still the same thing. You know, if somebody else shouted out, "Oi, Wobbles," you might not like that so much if you didn't know them, but or somebody else wouldn't. But what's the difference?
It's my emotional state at the time, Jonathan, I think.
We
So
would do, yes.
if I'm in a happy mood, I'd just go, "Oh, yeah, you're right," you know, like that. And if I was in a, no, actually, me now, I probably wouldn't say anything rude to him. I'd just
No,
go, right. Do you know what I mean?
There's no point taking anything when the problem is that we make things about us. That's what DTO is founded on. When people ask me what I do, I say I just change how people feel about themselves.
Yeah.
Because that's all I'm doing. I'm taking out how people feel about themselves, and then when you do that, the problem goes away. Whatever it is, I just find that situation, find out how it makes them feel about them, and then the problem goes away. So, so as soon as you do that,
Go on, we're talking over each other.
no, I know. So as soon as you do that, the problem never exists anymore. So you can't be re-triggered by it because the feeling about you is not there any longer, and you shouldn't make anything about you because if you do, you have a problem. And I realized that because I was wondering how people like Eckhart Tolle or Sadhguru, these spiritual people, become so present and still. And the reason they become so present and still is they don't make anything about them anymore.
Mm.
They don't have a feeling about themselves about that situation. people with the other problem is mental health is people always think the anger, the resentment, the bitterness, the fear, the injustice, the betrayal, those are the responses that are the problem. The anxiety, that's not the problem. It's the feeling about yourself. So if you're in a social situation, for instance, and you feel anxious, well, I would go, well, how does that make you feel about you when you feel innocent? Oh, well, I don't feel I can speak to people. Okay, if you can't speak to people, how does that make you feel about you? Well, I feel weak. Okay, I'll switch that off and then it'll go. Or I feel vulnerable, or I
Yeah.
feel stupid. And you switch that off and then the problem goes away once you change that response. It's really not difficult. It's really very simple.
Right. You see, that as well is when I suppose that's quite relevant when people talk about other people negatively, because that response when when you're making judgments on other people or that is because you've got something inside of you
Yeah.
that's running that you feel bad about you, and you're literally in a way layering it on other aspects, people in
That's right.
society.
That's right. One of the things I tell people, because some of my friends or colleagues, they go, "Oh, it's so hard to work on yourself and find what the root cause is." No, it's not. One of the ways to find the root cause of your problems is go, okay, what do I dislike in other people? And then ask yourself, well, so if you dislike lying, where do you lie, or where do you tell yourself lies, or where have you lied in the past that you feel bad about?
Yeah.
If you don't like people interrupting you, where do you interrupt other people?
Like now all the time.
Exactly. That's why I use the example. That's why I use the example. So whatever you don't like in life, you have either done it somewhere, you are doing it, or in a roundabout way it's happening in some way you're generating that. That's a really simple way to find out your deep rooted issues. Just look at what other people do you don't like and change that.
And then sort it out. I like that. I like that. So Easy, the Commodores.
Easy, yes, great tune.
Just any reason for this one this morning, or just you like the tune?
It's one of my favourite tunes. I never used to like it. I liked other Commodore songs, but I never used to like it until I learned to play on the piano, and then I really started loving the song. It's just such a beautiful song. And it's such a nice song to play as well. So it's and it's also it does quite work on a Sunday morning to sit down and play that. That's a really nice thing to sit and do. It's great. So I
I
really
didn't
love
know you
that.
played the piano, Jonathan. That's another.
I dabble. I don't want to say I play.
Yeah,
I
you
don't
dabble.
play
You
a few
dabble.
songs.
So
Yes.
Django, if you wouldn't mind a bit of Easy with the Commodores, please.
Cool, you're off there.
Thank you. Yeah, I wouldn't mind wandering into that, what we just talked about, actually, Jonathan, a bit in detail, because I think it could help out a few people I know.
What, playing easy on a Sunday morning? I don't think so.
Oh,
That's going to work at all.
no. Oh, no, the self, when you're talking about other people negatively.
Yeah.
When you're always going, I don't like that person's a narcissist and this person's a da 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 da. And I think if we could wander into that space, that would be quite nice.
Okay.
Because, yeah, I know a few people who do that quite a lot.
I can wander into it. You can wobble into it. Fine.
I'll wobble into it. I'm wobbling now. Have you noticed I'm standing up?
No, I wasn't sure you were standing. I was sitting down.
No, I now have my laptop elevated so I can actually stand up while I'm on my laptop.
Right.
Because as you said, rehab doesn't happen just at 1 hour spikes during the day.
No, that's
and
good.
I just thought, right, well, I spend a lot of time on my laptop at the moment, so I just put it up on its frame thing, and
Right. And where's your foot? Is it forwards? Knees over your toes?
No, I'm actually stood with my feet like a penguin at the moment.
Don't do that.
That's like the support thing. Straighten them up. There we go.
Yeah.
They're straight now.
That's it. Now you're doing proper recap.
Yeah.
Well, I will nag you till you do it. I will make sure you do it correctly till you get it, because I want you.
I was stood like that, not like
I
that.
want to go for a run with you, so we can.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I will nag you till you do it.
Yeah, you'll be regretting that, Jonathan, when we start running, because I'll be like Forrest Gump.
What, you want to eat chocolates while you're running around? That'd be brilliant.
No, we're just going to keep running until
I'll
you
keep
get
running.
a massive beard down to your like belt line,
Okay, all right.
and then when it gets down to there, we can stop running.
Okay, fair enough. The easy way to do that is being a massive stress state. That's how we did it.
Be in a massive stress state.
That's how we did it. That's how he could do it. It was a massive stress state. He ran because he was in stress.
Yeah,
and he kept
What
saying,
are we going to do? We need a zombie apocalypse to make me run. Like World War Z, that type of zombie. One that you've really got to run.
To keep running and running, because I was in that. I only realised it because I was in that state once, because I used to run. I don't run now.
Yeah.
but I used to run, and I was in a massive stress state, and I did run, and I ran for about 3-4 hours, and didn't feel any problem. I was fine because I was in such a stress state. I could just kept going. I stopped because it was getting dark, not because I necessarily had to stop. And I realized in that moment, oh, that's when you're in that state. I'm not recommending this, by the way. Anyone watching this, don't do this. Okay,
Yeah.
there's any 5-year-olds watching. No. So, but that I realized in that moment that when you're in that stress state, you don't really feel your body like you do when you're in a normal homeostasis state. So, I could have run for ages. So it's just that's why some people they can do things because they're in that fight and flight state. It's not good to be in that state, but
I went for a run once and I realized I was pushing through anger.
yeah,
He kind of broke down in like fury on my run. I was, I was baffled. It came on so abruptly. I realized I was really trying to work out this anger through a run.
One way to yeah,
Quite a thing.
one way to move emotion, Django.
Absolutely. 40 seconds to go.
Thank you. That's what we've all, always taught, that emotion's just energy in motion. It just needs moving.
Yeah.
If you're stuck, it's Cole Heath, mate of mine, Carl Wiseman. I think you've probably seen him on a couple of vids. He's in Canada, Cole, but he works with something he calls Energy Wise, and it's like it just teaches kids to move. If you're getting emotionally stuck, you're probably sat sedentary most of the day. Move, go do something. I mean, as kids, we didn't suffer from anxiety because we were always out.
KINDASOUND, tuning in for change.
And you're that.
And welcome back to KINDASOUND this morning. So we're going to continue the conversation about the self and being reactive to other people, because I think that's a very important part of the self change, really, Jonathan, isn't it? So if you've not got money to go and see a therapist and bits and pieces like that, I always say to people, the first part of you being able to change is listening to your language, in a way, because language is power. The language you hold on the inside and you run on the inside of you, and especially the language that comes out of your mouth as well. And I find one of the quickest ways to create change, and it can be a massive challenge because some of our language is patterned as well. It just runs on autopilot. But the language that you're speaking about others, like you say, is a very good mirror, isn't it, for the self, for what you need to shift.
You can tell what you're running by looking at what triggers you with other people, what bothers you by other people. I don't just mean people around you, the news, TV shows. If you get upset with a character on a TV show because they've done something, why are you getting upset about it? It's a TV show. What is that triggering in you? People don't realize these things trigger us all the time. So if you're going into a state of fight and flight, you're getting angry, resentful, bitter, upset, hurt, or jealous, whatever it is, you're now in fight and flight. That means you are having a response to something, but it's your response that's the problem, not what's happening around you. Because you can only control your response. This is the problem. We get taught the outside world is the problem. We blame outside world, when really it's our response to the outside world that's a problem. And if you want to find what's bothering you, then just ask, well, what is it I don't like in other people? It's a very simple thing to ask yourself that.
John has a lovely way of doing this. When we work in, we used to just use it in schools, but we do it a lot in like the corporate environment and with the hostility stuff as well. But he'll write up on the board, people I love and I admire, and he'll say, like, everybody, just give me things you think of people. It can be anyone from famous people to your brother to your nan or whatever, and just give me qualities that you admire about these people. And you'll get, oh yeah, they'll be going, oh yeah, they're loving, they're kind, they're giving, they're resilient, they're all these beautiful things. And then he'll say, right, now think of someone that you really don't like, that you have no admiration for whatsoever, that you wouldn't care if they dropped off the side of the earth, so to speak. And just give me the words, and they'll, rude, intolerant, all these sort of things like that. And then John always just turns around and points at the board and goes, welcome to you.
Yeah.
Pretty much you've just written a list of all your lovely attributes.
Yeah.
All the shit ones that you see in other people, but you don't recognize in yourself.
Yeah, that's right.
But they're yours and they're in there.
And that's often what affects people the most sometimes. They don't realize that their own actions and behaviors are what make them feel guilty and ashamed of themselves, which cause a lot of problems. And sometimes I'm working through those things with people. That's where a lot of spiritual people have their blocks, because spiritual people are always trying to be better than everybody else. They're always trying to ascend to another plane. They're always trying to be kinder, more happy, and more positive, more fulfilling, more joyful. And when they can't achieve that, they then beat themselves up and feel bad and feel guilt and shame, and then go around in circles. The person who's always trying to use positive thinking, not just spiritual, but somebody trying to use positive thinking to get better, but they keep going back to negative thinking, they end up beating themselves up because they can't do what they want to do. They can't create that positive thinking because that's not the way that actually works, that positive thinking. So then they're beating themselves up because they're not doing the thing they think they should be doing to get better, which then makes them problem worse.
I think it's exhausting, positive thinking.
That's very
I
exhausting.
say to people, you know, if you can imagine trying to stay in Von Trappland all day, you're just going to get worn out and have a meltdown. So you just have to find balance. You know, if you're having a day with a lot of negative thoughts, just bump the thoughts a little bit to something a little bit better. You haven't got to go full on. I think positive thinking is quite damaging sometimes because, like you say, because of the failure aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because people think, you know, you see all these gurus and these coaches. This is why I like the show's called Reality Bites, because I like a bit of reality in there. You know,
Yeah.
I've got a fly flying around, and I'll wax it in a minute. I work in coaching, and for me, all different types of coaching, I think my clients need to hear about my bad days.
Yeah.
And what I do on a bad day, because I am a human being that has negative and positive emotional states and different belief systems. And not every day for me is going to be in Von Trappland. Do you know what I mean? And there's some days I wake up and just think, oh, not again, you know. And then I have to work on my thoughts. But I don't work on my thoughts to get them into like, yay, here we go, everything's great. I just get back to that nice peaceful level where I can function in a good space. Because if you're trying to be positive all day long, it can be exhausting.
It's very exhausting trying to do that, and it's exhausting doing a lot of things. It's exhausting trying to be grateful, and it's exhausting doing visualization. It's exhausting doing a lot of things that you don't need to be doing. There are easy ways of doing it, and so a lot of that stuff that we get taught, again, it just makes the problem worse. It's not, you shouldn't be going down that road, but not the way they tell you to go down that road. So things like gratitude as well, you know, to sit in bed and try and be grateful is sometimes very disheartening because you don't actually feel grateful.
Yeah, because you've got no, and to generate a feeling can take, you know, if I'm doing it like the heart coherence, I do that purposefully, but that monitor that I have on, there's a reason I use it, because it's how long does it take me to get into a coherent state?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's 3 minutes, sometimes it's 15 minutes until everything's firing off like coherently. Now, if you could, you know, and I work in this environment, so for me, that's not an issue. I just like to get myself balanced. But if that's someone who has been told that, you know, if you want to improve your life and you want to create and manifest, you've got to be grateful. And they're sat there in the morning, like you say, trying to feel grateful, and they're not, they're just feeling shit. Then that's going to actually have a really negative impact on how their day goes and what they bring into their life experience, isn't it? I always think gratitude, feel it when you feel it. If you smile at something like, you know, a sunset, that's you being grateful. Just tune into it, recognize it, and enhance it in that moment rather than trying to force something in.
That's what I tell people. I say thank you when good things happen, or when you're pleased by something. So if you're driving up to a set of lights and it turns green, you have to stop. Thank you.
Yeah.
Say thank you in the moment, then you are genuinely being grateful. You're not trying to fake it. That whole fake it till you make it, that works in a certain context, but not always. And it can be very, let's say, disheartening. And when someone's very stuck and very traumatized, they can't be grateful, because you can't be grateful when you feel like shit. It's not. If you have a bad day, but your mind is actually healthy generally, that's different. But if you actually have a mind health issue, like you say, anxiety, depression, being grateful with that running, because that's like a fog that sits over you. So you can't see gratitude in that fog. It's like a clamp, a vice that sits around your head. Depression is anyway.
Yeah.
And you can't see the way through. So you can't be grateful in that moment. It's never going to work in a million years. Don't care what you do. So so some of these things are very, like you say, can be quite dangerous because they create more of a problem. Um, uh, but I think one of the biggest problems with people is that they just don't know how to know what's wrong with them. And if they just learnt a simple way to work out what's actually wrong, then they might be able to do something about it. But most people go to the wrong thing. They blame the external thing. They look at the wrong emotion. We've had discussions about awareness. My view of awareness is that most people become aware of the wrong thing. If you're aware of the wrong thing, you're now going to go around in circles. So
Yeah.
people do it with emotions. I know we go to different levels, but when you become emotionally intelligent, people go, well, I know I was angry in that moment. Well, that's not the issue. It's irrelevant. So you're aware of the wrong thing. So you've now just messed up because you're aware that you're angry, and you might try and change that, but it might not work because that's not your problem.
Yeah, it was the point that created.
Well, it's how you feel about yourself that's the problem. So if you're angry with that person because they said that, how does that make you feel about you? Well, I feel unimportant. I feel not loved. That's the problem. Nothing to do with the other person, nothing to do with your anger. That's how you feel about you. That's what needs to be changed.
Yeah.
So the problem with things like awareness or that is people become aware of the wrong thing. It's okay to learn and go through stages, but ultimately you could just go straight to the root cause and then change it. Obviously, you can't just change that logically. If you feel unloved in situations, then logic's not going to override that. You can't just pretend you feel loved one day, or pretend you're supported, or be grateful for something. You can't do that. You do have to actually switch that off. But once you know what it is, you at least focusing on the or becoming aware of the genuine response of the problem will help you a certain degree, because that's one of the biggest problems I see. People are always, they go counselling and the counsellor's always going, so how do you feel about that? Well, I'm frustrated. Well, you always focus on the wrong problem. That is never going to solve the problem ever. All it's going to do is keep you angry, keep you frustrated, keep you bitter, keep you resentful, and it just doesn't solve anything. So if people would just learn just the thing about DTO, it shows us a simple way to understand what's wrong, and then a simple way to change it. It's just,
if we had a little bit more time, so we've only got 3 minutes left, I want to chuck your last song out. We could share in brief. Could you share in one sentence a quick way for someone to recognise and ditch something? What you did with me the other day. Would you be happy to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is the sentence or the sentences that you use?
I'll do it we've got another 15 minutes, haven't we? Well,
no, got 3 minutes.
oh, okay. Is that the end of the interview after that?
Yeah.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. 3 minutes. Oh God. Okay. So the best thing to do then is so whenever the best thing to do is go to a thought. When you have a thought, just ask if that thought's working for you. No. What's the opposite or better? Ask what's the opposite or better. Think of a positive thought and repeat. Do the opposite for 2 minutes.
There you go.
The opposite.
Guys.
But if you want to learn that, just go to www.thedtoacademy.com and you can sign up for a free training in DTO. And
there you go, guys.
It'll teach you how to clear memories. You'll be able to clear memories using a very basic process.
Perfect. So, yeah, I should have given us a bit more of a heads up on that one, Jonathan. But we're literally 2 minutes till the end. So I love the fact that you've just jumped in and promoted yourself. So I was going to ask you. We'll put everybody listening to this. If you want to contact Jonathan, we're going to put the details down on the bottom of the YouTube, and it will come out on the podcasts as well. So I just want to say thank you very much, my friend, for joining me again this morning.
All right. Thank you for having me.
Conversation. Thank you, Django, for producing. And we're going to play out with something that I hope my mum will be dancing around the kitchen to. So a bit of Good Golly Miss Molly.
Cool, you're fair.
Lovely. Cheers, guys.
Thank you, Django.
Thank you, guys. I love that one. That was very interesting.